Okay, so welcome to the social media update for July 2023. Can you believe it? We are in the summer months already. If you are brand new to our monthly updates, then hello, my name is Alison. I am Avocado Social founder and social media consultant. I've been working in the industry for nearly 15 years, which is mad. I've seen so much change in social media. I mean, TikTok, Instagram, they didn't even exist when I started, but really interesting platforms to be working on now. I work with a wide range of businesses, organizations and brands. As you can see here on this slide, I do tend to work a lot with food and drink and hospitality brands, just because that's where my passion lies, but that's not restricted to those sorts of brands at all. So if you would like to have a chat about any of the work that we do across social media, strategy, workshops, and consultancy as well, then do get in touch. So today I have promised our community that I will be whittling down to 5 top trends today, but with a bit of a deeper dive into Threads, which is of course the social media tool everyone is talking about at the moment. So we're going to take a deeper dive into Threads today, but of course, as always, I'm sprinkling in a few tips from other social media platforms as well. But I'm really excited to let you know that the latest social media stats have just been released. So twice a year, a company called Meltwater and We Are Social put together their data along with a company called Data Reportal. And this report comes out, which is a global overview of all of the latest social media insights. So it's really worth having a look at. I'm just about to drop the link to the reports into the chat. It's completely free. So if you are doing some research or you're wanting to know a little bit more about who is using social media, which platforms and age groups as well, then this is the report to take a look at. It's the definitive guide. And actually, it's just been released for the July update. They release it twice a year, January and July. So data from the UN shows that the world's population has reached 8.05 billion. And now the number of active social media user identities now equates to 60%, 60.6% of the world's population. So that's 4.88 billion active social media user identities. Now, it's really important that I do class that as user identities because one of the key things is that these aren't unique people necessarily. So it might be that it is a bot account, or perhaps somebody has multiple social media profiles on a particular. Oh, sorry, I'm just being distracted a little bit with a couple of messages. Is anyone else having an issue with sound? Is the sound coming?
I just want to say, if people are having problems with the sound, maybe come in and out. That might be a problem. If
Okay.
people come in and they go out and they come back in, it will fix the problem.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you for that. So I am going to mute everybody now. And I can see quite a few of you are saying your sound is fine. So if you are having an issue with sound, then that's a great tip. Thank you. Do come out and then come back into it, and hopefully that will have fixed. So thank you so much, everybody. So as I said, this doesn't necessarily mean it's unique people who are logging into the social media platforms, but it does give us a really good idea of the sheer size of social media. If we have a look at some of the other headlines, I thought it was really interesting to have a look at the age breakdown of age and gender across active social media user identities. So you can see it really is male dominant, particularly in the 20 to 29 age group. And actually 20 to 39-year-olds are kind of the most active age groups. I'm not sure if that surprises anyone, but it is interesting to see that spread. I definitely don't think, 60 plus should be ignored either. We've still got active users spanning across all age groups. And of course, do remember that although you have to be 13 years old in order to use social media, according to the terms and conditions of each of the social media platforms, there are, of course, a lot younger audiences using platforms like TikTok, Twitch, and Instagram, who are also under the age of 13, but that user data is not available. I thought this was a really interesting slide from the report, which is showing us just the role that social media has in terms of generally allowing people to discover brands, products, and services via each channel. If we look at the sources of brand discovery, the percentage of internet users aged 16 to 64 and how they discover new brands, actually third in position there is ads on social media. 27.7% of people saying they discover brands, products, and services through ads. And I think that's so interesting because that's really significant in terms of the source of discovery, just behind search engines and ads on television. Obviously, word of mouth is still incredibly powerful, but actually ads on social media has overtaken ever so slightly word of mouth recommendations there. And in my personal experience, where you can marry those two things together, so you are using a word of mouth recommendation as an ad, so a piece of user generated content as an ad can work beautifully, particularly on apps like Instagram and TikTok. So having a look at the breakdown there, you can see the percentage of internet users who discover new brands, products, and services. In number one spot for 16 to 24-year-olds, it's social media ads. So actually within that particular Gen Z age group, social media ads is the number one way. And so that's interesting just to see the age split. And of course, as you'd probably guess, 55 to 64-year-olds, it's television ads that are still kind of number one there in terms of how they are discovering brands, products, and services. Search engines, which is the top result there for 25 to 54-year-olds. At the moment, this doesn't count any of the social networks there, but I wonder whether, given the way that TikTok has become almost a search engine in itself, whether in the future TikTok will be counted as a search engine. Who knows? But at the moment, it's not. And the other thing to note there in those lists is you can see social media comments is actually appearing in 16 to 24, about halfway down, in 25 to 34, about halfway down, and towards the bottom there in 35 to 44-year-olds as well. So definitely that.
Sorry. Someone's trying to get into the room.
Okay. I can see that there are still people waiting to join us. So yeah, I will
just to let you know.
Thank you very much. I can see that. I unfortunately am managing all of this just by myself today. So as and when I get a moment,
I want to make me a photo.
So I'm going to continue. As I've said, this session is being recorded. So if anyone does miss a part of it, or if the sound is off for anyone, then you can, of course, refer back to the recording as well. Okay, so continuing on, I did today want to look at an in-depth look at Threads. So today, one of the key things that I've promised a lot of people to talk about is kind of where we're at with Threads. Obviously, Threads appeared very, very last minute and launched, and with no warning, really. It just kind of launched very, very quickly. Although I must say, on last month's update, we did predict that Facebook or Meta were going to be launching something very, very quickly. So we didn't know it was going to be called Threads. We didn't know necessarily what it was going to look like, other than that it was Meta's competitor to Twitter. And they actually have broken records with Threads. It was the fastest, and it is still the fastest growing app in history, with 100 million users in just 5 days. Now, just for context, you can see there on the left, if you look at how long it took other apps to launch and to reach 150 million global downloads, you can see Call of Duty there, Pokemon Go, which was, previously quoted as one of the most successful apps of all time. So Threads has smashed all of those records. But as I'm sure many of you have experienced, once you logged into Threads, which was very easy to do from logging in via Instagram, have you since been using Threads actively? And that's always going to be the challenge, is how can Meta retain all of this traffic? How can they keep people interested? So once Threads launched, they did manage to keep quite a lot of interest for the following days after that. And they did see huge growth in these markets. So India, Brazil, United States, Mexico, and Japan. And all of this data is coming from data.ai. So if you do want to have a look at download data of Threads, who was downloading it, which countries, which age groups, then you can, absolutely. This data has not come from Meta. Meta has not released any data at all. So interesting to note there. But of course, the media is closely watching Threads and keeping an eye on how they are retaining traffic. And in the headlines just over the last couple of days, the story has broken that they have seen a 70% drop off in users. So that story came from an intelligence firm called Sensor Tower, who are looking at data via their own sources, and that was reported in Forbes. It isn't something that Meta has confirmed or denied. You can also see there that, the BBC is also claiming the excitement over Threads has faded, but Mark Zuckerberg has said this week that he's actually quite surprised at how many repeat visitors are coming back to Threads, and it's more than he expected as well. So really interesting to just keep an eye on it. I think it's very much too soon to be able to predict whether Threads is going to be a success or not. But Zuck has also said that he wants to get to 1 billion users. That's his aim, and that they're going to do everything possible to do that. So I do think we've got so much more in the pipeline to come around Threads. And as I'm sure many of you have experienced so far, the app itself is incredibly lacking in terms of functionality. Some of the most requested features at the moment include the following feed, which I'm going to come on to in just a second. So you currently can't see updates from people you're following, although that is changing over the last 24 hours. There is no search functionality, so you can't search for users or search for content in their thread updates. There's no hashtags as well, so it is quite difficult to be able to talk about, a cultural phenomenon or an event, or even just to kind of find other people who are interested in very similar topics to you. So what do you guys think of Threads so far? Are you using it? Have you signed your business up to Threads yet? A lot of people like the sign up process because it is so easy to do via Instagram, and you can automatically follow everyone you're following on Instagram too. But as Stephen Bartlett correctly stated, it's early days, and you can see here in his update, he said, this is how Twitter looked when it was as old as Threads. Let's be patient. So that screenshot there from a very early days Twitter, I'd imagine that's probably Jack Dorsey's Twitter account there. It was a web portal which you updated via SMS message from your phone. So it looked incredibly basic, didn't it? So I think Threads is already, doing a lot better at kind of where Twitter was at that point in time. Threads is actually rolling out its following feed. So anybody got it yet? Anybody got the following feed? I can see quite a lot of you are saying that you've signed up to Threads, but you haven't necessarily used it yet. So I can see there quite a few of you discussing how you're using it so far. I've got some examples coming up for you as well, but one of the most requested features is this following feed, where you are able to actually see content from people you're following. So I haven't got it yet, but this is what it's going to look like. You can see very, very similar to Twitter. So on the left-hand side, you've got the For You feed, and on the right-hand side, you've got following. At the moment for me, that is just an algorithmic news, an algorithm-based news feed of content that Threads thinks I'm going to be interested by. Now, the more you use Threads, the more relevant your content in your feed becomes. So if you have logged into Threads and you're scrolling through your feed and there's just nothing relevant there for you, it's because you haven't necessarily used it well enough yet, and you haven't been able to kind of tell the algorithm what you're interested in. So how are brands using Threads so far? Well, one of the things I'm really enjoying about Threads is just that kind of reverse back to conversation-led social media. So you can see all three of these updates from businesses are text-based. There's no images or video used in these. It's very accessible, so you don't necessarily have high production costs of creating a graphic or a video or a reel or editing a TikTok. You can just start conversing straight away. So I quite like the fact that all of these brands are asking questions. You can see engagement is okay. It's not crazy numbers, but it is also higher than Twitter for a lot of brands. So a lot of brands are reporting that they're seeing higher engagement on Threads than they are on Twitter. Of course, it's going to be down to your audience and whether they have moved over to Threads, or perhaps you're finding that your audience is using both. I have also noticed a lot of businesses who are using similar content on Threads to Twitter, just to really test the waters and see, what does work well on Threads. But the idea of Threads really is, at the moment, conversation, a bit of banter, updates that are really text heavy. So asking questions is a really good way to engage your audience. If we have a look at some other examples then, I really like seeing brands that are doing something completely unique on Threads. Greggs, which has always been a favorite of mine. This is a bakery in the UK. Sausage rolls forever. So really using up that full space of the update. I think you've got 1,000 characters to use in an update. You can't use hashtags yet. Hashtags do not work on Threads. But you can use emojis, you can use images, and you can upload video as well, although many people aren't. One of the brands that I think is really nailing Threads is the UK TV channel, Channel 4. They are creating some brilliant content, lots of banter, lots of irreverent content, lots of ways that they are maybe hooking in their programming, their television shows to zeitgeist conversations like Barbie, of course. They've also got a little bit of competition going on with another TV network here in the UK called ITV. as well. So there's quite a lot of banter going on between them, and it's all very light-hearted as well. But you can see in terms of likes, they are regularly hitting kind of 2,000-3,000 likes on their content, which is far higher than what they are achieving over on Twitter as well. So do go and give Channel 4 a follow on Threads to kind of see a brand that is doing it well. So that's where we are with Threads at the moment. I honestly think we're going to see a lot more from Threads over the next couple of months. I think the team is working incredibly hard to release some new features. As I said, Zuck has just announced to investors of Meta that he wants Threads to reach 1 billion users very quickly. So I'd imagine there's going to be some pretty cool updates coming in order just to keep them in people's mind, get people returning to the app, and get people using the app regularly as well. So if you are able to, and if you have the resource available, I would recommend as a business to have a presence on Threads. I am very aware that not everybody has access to it. So a couple of my clients in the EU do not have access to Threads yet, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. So obviously, if your country does have access to Threads, then worth exploring. Maybe try out posting a few different styles of content and just see what kind of thing sticks for the moment as well. So what else is going on in social media news then? Well, I'm sure you all saw the headlines this week that Twitter is rebranding to X. So you can see the new CEO, Linda Yaccarino, has said just a couple of days ago, X is here, let's do this. And you can see the X is beginning to integrate into the Twitter platform. For me, my my logo has already turned to the X, although the bird is still appearing in certain places. So they haven't quite removed the bird yet. A lot of people were saying it's going to take a long time for people to stop calling it Twitter and to kind of stop recognizing the bird as a Twitter thing. So we shall see. Musk had the X projected on the company's headquarters in San Francisco earlier this week. Although they have hit a few roadblocks, as with many other things going on since Musk took over Twitter. So one of the key things, I'm not sure if you guys saw in the news, that Twitter had issues actually taking down the sign outside of the Twitter headquarters. The police showed up and kind of stopped that from happening. So I'm not quite sure why that was. The other piece of news I saw just today was that the X has already been trademarked by Meta for social networking services. So an IP lawyer has been quoted today as saying that there's a 100% chance Twitter's going to get sued. So there's a lot going on. We're not quite sure whether this is something that's going to remain, the X branding, or not. It's very much up in the air. The other thing I read that just this morning was that the chaotic rebrand of Twitter has hit another stumbling block after it emerged. Its new X web domain was blocked in parts of Asia under anti-porn laws. So it seems like this has been maybe a bit of a rush job, and due diligence hasn't been done around the rebrand. So I'm hesitant to say that this rebrand will be permanent. We shall see. And as with everything going on Twitter at the moment, it's just impossible to predict what's going to happen over the next few months. Over 60% of Twitter's ad revenue has been lost since Musk did take over the brand, but he's still very focused on his plan for it to become an everything app, which powers our banking, our finance payments, etc. So he's got big plans for Twitter, or X, I should say. But, we are still very much waiting to see how well that goes. For those of you that are still wondering, is it worth subscribing to Twitter Blue? Is it not? I would ask, have you seen a dip in engagement? Have you seen a dip in reach? And if that's the case, then it may be that perhaps your audience isn't necessarily using Twitter perhaps as much as they were, or maybe you are being restricted due to the fact that you are not using Twitter Blue subscriptions. So that is something that I have found across a couple of my clients, is that just visibility on Twitter is really, really, really hard now. And that's why some of my clients are turning to alternative platforms as well. But the key thing is, where is your audience? Are they still using Twitter? And if they are, then it can certainly still be a brilliant tool. So the next update I wanted to talk about is the TikTok ads library. So if you've been on one of my workshops before, or perhaps heard me talking about ads, then you'll know that I'm a huge fan of the Meta Ads library. This is a free resource available for anyone in the world to come and log on and see which ads are being run in different countries. Who's advertising? Where are they advertising? What creative are they using? What messages are they using? You don't know how much they're spending, but you can make assumptions based on how many ads they have live and also which markets they are advertising in. And so this was a big requested feature for TikTok, because obviously Meta has one. Everybody wanted to see what TikTok could produce. And just last week, they launched their own version of the TikTok ads library. So the ads library is completely free to access. Again, I'm going to pop the link in the chat so you can go and have a look at that. And you can use it to find information about who is advertising right now on TikTok. Unlike Meta, they actually have some historical ads in there as well. So Meta will only ever show you what's being advertised right now, but on TikTok, you can go and have a look at what's been advertised over the last kind of 6 months or so. And you can also filter that based on country, ad type, and you can search for the advertiser. So in this example, I have searched for Crocs just because I know that they are big on TikTok. They do a lot of advertising and they do a lot of influencer and creator content too. You can see exactly which ads they've had live and which dates those ads were run on. You can also see the unique users who have seen the ad. So you can see it's telling me between 1 million and 10 million people saw that particular ad. If you click into the ads as well, you can find out a little bit more information as well. And I think these ads are all brilliant for TikTok. You can see they're kind of full screen, vertical, very action-packed, fast edits. You know, they're interesting ads to have a look at, bright colors. So when I click into this ad, I can watch it once again. I can also see the target audience size. So how many people did they aim to target? If you scroll down, you can also see which genders they advertise to, which age groups they advertise to, and also any additional targeting parameters as well. So you'll be able to see if they used interest-based advertising or if they've retargeted based on video interactions or creator interactions, which is an option you have as well. So there's really quite a lot of information that TikTok gives you. And you can explore a little bit more about perhaps what your competitors are up to as well. So I use the ads libraries not just to spy on my competitors, but also to get ideas on creative, to get ideas on messaging and kind of what types of ads are working well. On TikTok in particular, user-generated content style ads, UGC ads, work really well. So creating a video that looks as if an influencer or a customer has created that. In fact, this particular ad that Gymshark has used was, I believe, a influencer partnership, which they would have then had in the contract, whether they could also use that as an ad. So always think about, if you are working with influencers and creators, whether or not you have the permission to use their content in an ad. And if you don't, maybe that's something you talk to specifically with the influencer about afterwards. So in this case, they targeted people who are interested in home improvement, food and bev, sports and outdoors, beauty and self-care, personal care, travel, pets and apps. So you can see the interest-based targeting they're using as well, which is more information than what Meta provides. So definitely worth a look at the TikTok ads library. The next update I wanted to talk to you about was TikTok text. So this is an update that happened, a little bit surprising, but just a few days ago. TikTok now allows you to create a new post that is just text. So if you think perhaps Instagram stories style, this is kind of their version. So you don't have to add a video or a photo. You can just do a text-based update, as you can see in this example. So it's really easy to do. You just click create a new post and you'll be able to see the text option appear as an option for you. So they did this potentially as a response to Meta's Threads, this move back towards micro blogging and text-based updates and conversation. They do look very similar to Instagram stories. You can choose a background color, you can edit how your text appears, you can add music, you can add stickers, you've got 1,000 characters, and you can also engage with other people's posts, or people can engage with your posts in the same way to how people interact with video on TikTok. So stitching, duetting, and you can comment on people's text only updates too. I haven't seen many people use it yet, so it's a very new thing, but it'll be quite interesting to see if any brands do have a go at that over the coming weeks as well. Okay. And the final update I wanted to talk to you guys about before we open the floor to any other questions that you might have is LinkedIn engagement. So actually just yesterday, day before yesterday now, LinkedIn reported record engagement once again. So they have been announcing this record engagement kind of every year, pretty much since COVID. They haven't necessarily gone into any more detail about what that might mean, but you can see here in the latest earnings announcement from Microsoft, who do of course own LinkedIn, that LinkedIn sessions grew 12% with record engagement, and LinkedIn revenue grew 5%, which is really driven by growth in talent solutions as well. So interesting to see there what's happening with LinkedIn. One of the things that I've been doing a lot more of over the last kind of 6 months or so is LinkedIn advertising. I wanted to share with you a couple of trends that I'm spotting, and I'd say the key one is lead generation ads in LinkedIn. So LinkedIn allows you to have these pre-populated lead forms, which a user who has seen your advert can click on in order to download that particular white paper, that ebook, that report. So a user would click download and this form would appear, which is pre-populated with that user's data. So the email address, phone number, website URL, whatever information you as an advertiser want to get from your audience, you can put that into the form. And these forms have been performing very well across LinkedIn. Because they're pre-populated, it makes it really easy for people to sign up for email newsletters, become leads, and also to download reports as well. So if you've got a brochure, a report, a trend kind of ebook, this is the perfect sort of thing that you could use for LinkedIn advertising. And also webinars as well. You could ask people to sign up for webinars using these inbuilt LinkedIn lead generation forms. So this is all within the LinkedIn advertising section of the tool, of the dashboard, only available if you're advertising. But as I said, these have been performing incredibly well across LinkedIn, and just remove a few steps of that user's journey as well. What else is working on LinkedIn? Well, it's definitely become a really interesting place for engagement and community, particularly around trends within your industry. So obviously, it wouldn't be a July webinar without me mentioning Barbie, which is, of course, the biggest movie release of the year, which came out last Friday here in the UK. And there have been a huge number of Barbie related updates across social media. And on LinkedIn, a lot of brands are talking about how Barbie has, really nailed their marketing approach to promoting the film. Other brands, jumping on the opportunity to use some of the kind of words around the film, the movie, memes, etc. And LinkedIn has definitely become a place where people are talking about Barbie too. I love this one from Heineken, which is actually not from Heineken themselves. Somebody just created this. And also HubSpot's kind of Barbie versus Ken meme on the right there as well. So definitely LinkedIn has become a place to talk about trends, zeitgeist, as well as your more kind of professional led conversation. But you can have a lot of fun with LinkedIn, and engagement is really, really high. Last month, we were talking about the LinkedIn algorithm and how to make sure that your content cuts through the noise. So if you didn't catch that one, do go back and have a look at the June social media update from us over on YouTube. That video is available completely for free, and we're talking about some of the tricks and tips that LinkedIn shared in order to cut through the noise on LinkedIn and get seen more in the feeds as well. And then I have jumped in or tucked in a little bonus update for you guys as well. This one actually, I just read really briefly in the news this morning. Google is now saying that 2 billion logged in monthly users are watching YouTube Shorts. Wow, that's actually gives it an edge over competitors like TikTok and Instagram Reels. So if you have got video content and you've got a YouTube channel, my advice would be just get some shorts up, just test some of your content that you've perhaps created for TikTok or Reels, get it up on shorts, see what it looks like, see how it performs, because actually user numbers are really high. Lots of people are watching these 15-second short vertical clips. And so if you have some content there anyway, then you could absolutely cut through the noise and see those numbers skyrocket as well.